Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Finland once again, and that means of course that we are going to look at another beer from Riku box number 1. So for this review, a massive shout out to one of my subscribers, Riku Sinaksinaho. I hope that I'm pronouncing his family name correctly, but he lives in Oulu in the north of Finland, and he set up a Finnish beer box for me so that I'm able to review some of these lovely Finnish craft beers for you. I know that the scene over there is kicking off, and for a long time it was just impossible to get a hold of Finnish beer. It still is very difficult to get a hold of Finnish beer outside of Finland, but he and I are going to try and make sure that we've got a steady stream of Finnish beers for you on the channel over the next little while. We'll probably do at least 2 boxes of Finnish beer coming to me every year, so we will see that going forward. So Riku is now officially my Finnish beer meal, so big shout out to him, and for those of you watching in Finland, you know, big ups to him of course. So yeah, we're going to go back to the brewery that we started this Finnish mini-series with. This is one of Riku's local beers. So for this one we are going to go up to Oulu in the north of the country once again, and we're having a look at another beer from Sonnisaari Panimo. So this particular beer is the Synti, which they're describing as a diabolical black lager, and it comes in at 7.4% ABV. So I guess you could maybe describe this one as like an imperial Schwarzbier or an imperial Tmavy if you want to give it its German and Czech names. And the Synti, of course, if we translate that into English, it literally means like sin or trespass actually. So yeah, this one should be really interesting. This is a style of beer that I've never reviewed from a Finnish brewery before, so hopefully Sonnisari are representing very well here. I've been getting more and more into my lagers recently. In Sweden actually, there's been a number of breweries brewing Schwarzbiers and Cascadian Dark Ales, black IPAs, a little bit more prolific recently. So I'm curious to see what the Finns have to offer in this style actually, and this one's a little bit different since it's 7.4%, a little bit heavier in alcohol actually. So really curious to see how this one turns out. The last beer that I had from Sonnisari Panimo was the Randy West Coast IPA, which turned out very nicely, and I do have 2 more beers to review from these guys over the course of Riku box number 1, so you can keep an eye out for those over the next little while. But yeah, let's see how we get on with this one. Very curious to see how it turns out. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Sonnisari Panimo before, and you will see more from these guys over the next little while. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Finnish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, but it will be added to regularly thanks to Riku. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Sonnisari then, on to my brewery notes. So Sonnisari, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Oulu in the northern part of Finland, and they were founded back in 2014, selling their beers first in May of 2015, and they were the first brewery in Oulu for about 10 years since the Ouluan brewery in the city centre closed. So the company was founded by Timo Kaniainen, Timo Tinsima and Harry Varla, and Timo K is the head brewer and CEO of the company. So initially they started running the brewery on the weekend, and they were producing just around 1,500 litres of beer per month. But after the first year they expanded rapidly after opening up a share issue, like basically a kind of crowdfunding scheme if you like, and this allowed them to quadruple their capacity to 14,000 litres of beer per month and invest in new bottling equipment as well. At this point Timo began to work in the brewery full time, and Kalle joined part-time in the brewing, and they now have Ole as part of the brew team as well. But the name of this brewery literally means Bull Island, and apparently this could have been very different. So Sonnisari is a small island next to central Oulu, and it's well known. It was supposed to have been intended to house a plague hospital during the 19th century, but in the early days the brewery became very close to it was very close to being founded in Toppila, and they were determined that the name would be something local, but they pulled out of the proposed site in Toppila, and they still had the opportunity to change the name on the paperwork. And the name Sonnisaari had been floated amongst the group already, and Tmavy had drawn a bull logo, and they felt that this kind of matched the idea of the heavily hopped IPA that they wanted to release as their first beer. But the brewery these days can be found in the south of the city, and as of May 2020, when I am producing this review for you, these guys have produced around 150 different types of beer. So for a brewery that's only been around a couple of years, they have actually been very, very prolific, and they are definitely one of the smaller breweries that you're going to find in Finland. From what I understand, the Finnish tax regime for artisanal beer producers and things like this has been revised quite massively in recent times, and that's the reason you're having the kind of Finnish beer boom at the moment, actually. So there's a little bit of a renaissance going on over there, I have to say, with all the different craft breweries and things popping up. But yeah, definitely nice to encounter this brewery again. As I said, the last beer I had from these guys was the Randy IPA, and I think it's an Imperial Stout and a barley wine that I've got to review from these guys later on as well. So I'm curious to see how those two beers turn out, but this one I think will be very, very interesting as well. But that's all I can really tell you about Sonnisaari at the moment. There are a couple of different breweries in Oulu from what I understand, and I think in the next box that Riku sends me, I'm going to review one or two more breweries from the Oulu area. But in this box we had 4 different Sonnisaari beers, because that's what Riku could get a hold of. But yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. Like I said, if you want to learn more about Sonnisaari, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about the different beers that these guys have done. 150 beers from this brewery in such a short time is pretty damn impressive when they only started selling them in mid-2015. So that's about 30 different beers a year, actually. So yeah, let's have a look at this one then and see how we get on. Check out all those links in the description below, like I said. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is pretty satanic, so you know, hail Satan, we always like a little bit of that. But yeah, there you can see on the top, there is the bull. Let's just wipe away some of that condensation. There you can see on the top, there is the Sonnisaari bull. Let's let the camera focus on that. It's a plain bottle cap on this one, of course a plain black one. Like I said, this one is a 7.4%, sorry, Schwarzbier, or Imperial Schwarzbier, Imperial Tmavy of some description. So yeah, there you can see on the side of the thing, there is the address of the brewery there. Yeah, Oulu, Suomi, Finland. So yeah, without further ado then, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. My first Schwarzbier, or dark lager, from Finland. This should be really interesting, and of course it's always cool to review some of your subscribers' local beers. This is one of the great things about doing this channel, is you get to, you know, you get people that send you, that arrange beer mails and stuff for you, and you get to try some really random stuff that otherwise it'd be very unlikely that you would get to try. And I can tell you something, this beer's got a hell of an aroma coming out of it as soon as it's poured. That's pretty damn impressive, I have to say. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one. This looks like a stout or something like that, actually. It feels, when I'm holding this glass, you can feel a good bit of weight to this beer, but at 7.4% you are going to have a higher malt content, and you know, the liquid will be a little bit more dense and things. But yeah, this beer actually looks like a stout or something like that. You can see it's poured a lovely dark ebony rosewood colour. If I hold it up to the light, it does have a little bit of a kind of Coca-Cola, Pepsi coloured edge to it. You can see the head on this one is about a quarter finger, and I would say it's a kind of medium beigey, you know, medium tan coloured head on this one. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there, but you know, overall it does look pretty damn nice, actually. I like how I do like how this goes together. The the appearance of this one is, it's pretty much what you would expect from a Tmavy or a Schwarzbier or a dark lager, basically, is however you want to call it. So yeah, I think we have to call this one a black lager, because of course if it's a dark lager then technically it is a dunkel or a cherny. So when it comes to the lager styles of beer, basically you've got quite a few different varieties of these. So if you were talking about German lagers, you've got the Helles, which is the blonde one, the Dunkel, which is the sort of brown caramelly coloured one, then you've got the Schwarzbier, which is the black lager. If we talk about the Czech lagers, then you have the Svetli, which I believe is the, I always get these two mixed up. You've got the Svetli and the Letzak. One of them is blonde, the other one is a bit more amber. Then you have the Cherny, which is the equivalent of the Dunkel. That is the more kind of that's the more kind of darker caramelly coloured one. Then you have the Tmavy, which is the equivalent of the Schwarzbier. I think the Svetli and the Letzak, the amber lager, is basically the equivalent to a Vienna lager. But yeah, you've got these 4 different types of Czech lagers. I've always found the Czech ones are a bit smoother and a bit more bready. The German ones tend to be a little bit more kind of clean and crisp, almost, if that makes sense. But lager beers, I really like them. And the Doppelbock, of course, is a lager type beer as well. But these are all fermented at very cold temperatures. I think usually, is it about 4 degrees? I think that you usually ferment the lager beers at. So yeah, cold fermentation is usually what you need for a lager beer. But this one, like I say, I think 7.4%, this is almost like an imperial Schwarzbier or an imperial Tmavy or something like this. So we'll comment on this video as to whether it's a bit more akin to a Czech style lager or a bit more akin to a German style beer. So yeah, let's just have a look at the aroma here and see how we get on with this one. I'm very curious to see how this beer turns out actually. The aroma of that is very, very nice. So straight away with this one, you can smell some of that roasty black malt coming out of the beer. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a bit of carafa that's in there. I learned recently from my Nerd Brewing review, apparently Special B is another malt that can give you that kind of toasty, bread crusty thing. But I do think there's a bit of carafa in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of black malt in here as well, but it smells a little bit too smooth for that. I would be betting that it's Weirmann Carafa. Weirmann's a very famous malt producer in Bamberg in Germany. Their factory actually is a heritage, it's a protected heritage site by the local, well, I don't know if it's the city government or the Bavarian government, but it's a protected heritage building. Anyway, very, very distinctive. But yeah, you can definitely pick up a little bit of that really well-fired bread crusty note out of this one. Definitely some nice, almost German brown rye bready type qualities in there. I pick up, there's a little bit of a biscuity sweetness, like a McVitie's digestive kind of thing. So the aroma of this beer is really very nice. There's maybe 1 or 2 little woody undertones to this, but to me it's really brown bready. It's got a real bit of kind of graininess to it. There is a bit of that biscuity note that I'm talking about there. And you can smell, like I say, that really well-fired bread crust. There is just a little bit of that black malty harshness, if you like, to it, that kind of slightly charred type thing coming out of the aroma of this beer. These are all things that you would expect of either a Schwarzbier or a Tmavy. At the moment, to me, it does smell a little bit more like a German one. Actually, in fairness, actually, it does smell as if it has a little bit of both. It's got a bit of the breadiness that you'd expect of the Czech Tmavy, but at the same time it's got a little bit of the kind of more crisp, toasty notes that you would expect of the German Schwarzbier. So yeah, the aroma of this one is very nice actually. I like how this goes together. In terms of the hoppy side of things, it is pretty much what you'd expect. There's a nice little bit of an earthiness to this one. You've got some nice, you've got a nice little bit of floral aromaticity there. It's actually very, it's quite typically German smelling in terms of its hoppiness. I don't know exactly what hops they would have put in this, but it's got a very noble quality to its hops. You know, the kind of smooth earthiness there. A little bit of a kind of medium, you know, just that kind of brighter floral character, but not too kind of pungent and spicy. Then a nice little bit of a lighter grassiness there. You do get that out of this beer. In terms of the fruitiness, it's just got a little bit of a kind of mild figgy note to it, this beer. It's not sharp or anything like that, just, you know, a little bit like that kind of typical figgy, candied strawberry type thing actually. So the aroma of this beer, I have to say, is quite interesting. It leans a little bit more towards the Czech breadiness the more that I smell of it actually, and at 7.4% it is going to be quite a malty leaning lager, this one, I would think. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we go on. So this one is the Synti, the Sin Trespass Diabolical Black Lager at 7.4% from Sonnisaari Panimo in Oulu in the kind of northern part of Finland. Big thank you to Riku once again for making these Finnish reviews possible. Let's get stuck into this one. Slanje, skål, kipis. Ooh, I like that actually. That's a really interesting one. It's actually, first impression of it is that it really has quite a nice kind of drying element. It really does get a bit more kind of dry on the palate. As soon as you take it in, you've got a hell of a lot of roasty black malt coming out of this one. Yeah, this is solid. I mean, I definitely think on first impressions, the flavour of this beer, it's definitely more leaning towards the German side of things. It smells a bit more like a Czech beer, but I think it really leans a little bit more towards the German side of things. So straight away with this beer, you can feel that kind of roasty, toasty, black malty quality. That just blankets the middle of the tongue. It's interesting how that goes together, but yeah, you definitely get a nice little bit of this roasty, toasty, black malty character there, and that really lingers into the aftertaste. The beer actually becomes very, very dry the more that you linger on it actually. But yeah, if you go towards the back third of your tongue, that's where you get some of these real roasty, toasty, bitter kind of notes in there. It's got a very kind of smooth bread crusty, well-fired bread crusty quality. You really get a little bit of that towards the towards the back of the palate there. I'm wondering, listen, I think this is pure straight up black malt rather than being carafa, just going from the flavours, because the roasty, toasty things that come out of this are quite they are quite dark and quite dry, so I think it is straight up black malt that's in here rather than the carafa, because I think otherwise it would just be a little bit smoother than it is. I think it could either that or it could be a mixture of both, in fairness. But yeah, the back of your palate there, yeah, some nice roasty, toasty black malts coming out of it. As I say, that kind of dominates there. You can feel it smoothing out a little bit the further you go into the aftertaste. But in the very centre of your palate, in the middle third of it, you can feel there is a bit of that roasty black malt backbone. On top of that, you get some nice kind of grainy, brown, almost rye bready type qualities to the beer. In the very centre of the palate, there's a sweet. There is a sweet kind of caramelly note to it, and as you move further out from that, you do get a little bit more of a kind of sweet, biscuity quality to the beer as well. So I really like how that goes together. So yeah, this one. It is actually quite a crisp. I think overall I would place this one more in the German Schwarzbier category than I would in the Czech Tmavy. I think I've always found the Czech Tmavies are just a little bit more bready. Czech beer I think is very bready and very smooth, and this one definitely leans more towards that kind of crisp side of things. I like the way you've got a nice kind of sweet caramelly note in the middle of the palate. You've got more kind of biscuity, McVitie's digestive kind of things coming out of it, but you've also got that really roasty, black malty backbone to this beer as well, which is quite interesting. I like how that all goes together in this one. This beer is this beer really is very, very crisp and very dry actually, but it suits it. It really does suit it, to be honest with you. I do like when you get a nice Schwarzbier that's like this. The classic Schwarzbier, of course, is the Kostritzer. This is the one that everybody knows. There's a few different Czech ones there, but I need to explore the Czech Tmavies a little bit more. The Czech beers have been neglected on the channel a little bit actually. But yeah, the flavour of this one is really very nice. So if you go to the front corners of the palate and move in a little bit, there are one or two little woody undertones, but yeah, very roasty and toasty black malt base. On top of that, you can get a little bit of the kind of brown bready qualities, very centre your palate. Little touch of sweet caramel, but more biscuity and grainy as you move further out from that. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, there is a good bit of earthiness there, and that kind of blends in with the kind of roasty black malt. But as you move further forward along the side of the palate, it does get a little bit more herbal. As you reach the kind of front corners of the tongue, you've got a nice little bit of floral aromaticity there. Then round the very front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy. Then behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. I do wonder if this has got American hops in it, because there are elements of what you'd expect from the German side of things. So I do wonder if there is like a little bit of Hallertau or Tittnanger, or a slightly stronger, you know, Perl or Hersbrucker or Hercules or something like that. So I think there is an element of one of the German hops in here. The Czech Sats, of course, is quite similar to the Hallertaus and the Tittnangers in terms of its profile, but I think the floral qualities are a bit brighter on that. But I think there is, I've got a feeling that this is American hopped, just because of the strength of the earthiness that you get out of this. So yeah, I do think there's an American hop in here, maybe Summit or something like that. It's quite a popular bittering hop for these types of beer. So yeah, I do wonder if there's a bit of Summit in this. Or they could have just used a little bit of Columbus or something like that. Columbus and Fairness would work a little bit as well. There is just an element of American kind of the type floralness to this beer. So as you come further forward, it really does get a little bit more bitter. As you go round the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and grassy. And on the fruity side of things, this one's got a few interesting qualities. So when you take it in, it does have a little bit of sharpness to it. So yeah, you do have a little bit of a kind of sharpness to this one. It's a little bit kind of figgy, but you've got some it becomes a little bit more kind of figgy and juicy the further that you go into the flavour of the beer. So you've got a nice little bit of the figgy quality there, but as you go further into the aftertaste, you will get a few wee elements of like a blackcurrant, blackberry sort of thing out of this beer. But the fruitiness, I think, fades away very fast. You just get a little bit of a figgy note lingering there on the kind of front third of the tongue, and you can feel the dryness, the roasty, toasty black malts just pushing their way up in this one as well. So this beer really becomes very dry in the aftertaste. But I have to say, this is an interesting one, and it certainly made me think more about these dark lager styles. But yeah, quite a dry one this. It's 7.4%. It doesn't feel too different from like a 5.5% which is what you'd normally have for a Schwarzbier or a Tmavy, but yeah, it definitely has a little bit more punch in terms of dryness and hoppiness and things like that. So that's definitely a point to take away from this beer. It's nicely done. It's definitely different, so you have to give Sonnisari kudos for being a little bit inventive with this beer style, because normally the way I would rate these would be in terms of authenticity, but this one is definitely more like a kind of craft take on the German Schwarzbier. I think it really leans towards the German kind of crisp and bitter side of things for me in this case, rather than the smoother Czech bready side of things. So yeah, interesting point to make about this beer, but it's well done. Thumbs up to Sonnisari for this. Another solid beer from these guys. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say yeah, quite you know, it's fairly kind of mid-bodied. It's top end of light-bodied, bottom end of mid-bodied. Carbonation is quite crisp in this one. It does have a wee bit of oiliness to the mouthfeel, good little bit of wetness as well. Nice big bitterness out of this one, both from the grainy side of things and from the hoppy side of things. I think we're talking maybe about 60 IBUs with this beer. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a bit more, to be honest with you, both from the black malts and from the hops. But you've got a nice little bit of malty sweetness to it, but mainly the malty side of the beer gets very dry and very roasty in it. And you've got just a little bit of a kind of fruitiness in this one, a little bit sharp and a little bit wet. But yeah, I like how this one I do like how everything goes together in this beer. It's a thumbs up from me, this. And maybe I need to try a few more like Dunkels and Doppelbocks and other things like this from the Finnish beer things. We do have a Doppelbock from Mufloni that we'll try a little bit later on, so you will see a few more lager beers reviewed. So yeah, maybe I need to look at some nice Finnish Pilsners and Helles beers in the next Riku box, but so we'll keep an eye out for that. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Synti, 7.4% dark lager beer, definitely more like a Czech, definitely more like a German Schwarzbier rather than anything else. Very dry, and it's really made me think a little bit more about this style, so that's probably why this review is a wee bitty longer. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. Definitely nice to have another Finnish beer for you here on the channel, and I look forward to continuing on with the Riku box. We have got another German type beer to come up for you, and that will be the next video that you see. But yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Sonnisari as well. Do give me some more Finnish beer recommendations, Finnish brewery recommendations, and we'll see what we can set up with Riku. Thanks again for watching. Make sure you check out Sonnisari Panimo if you get the chance, and hopefully I can get to Oulu sometime. Enjoy a beer with Riku and try some of the other Oulu beers as well. But this one was really interesting. The Synti Diabolical Black Lager at 7.4% from Sonnisari Panimo in Oulu in the north of Finland. Slanja, skål, thank you for watching, and keep peace.